Hello and welcome back to White Train Wrestling. I am Trainwreck, and I am here today with Mr. White.
Thank you for having me. This is Mr. White.
Today is going to be a shorter episode. We're going to get into a couple of things from WWE, and we're going to get into a couple of things from AEW. We're going to kick off today with WWE and Monday Night Raw. The first thing we're going to discuss is Becky Lynch and Maxine Dupree, and Becky Lynch's horrendous heel work. Some of the worst heel work that I have ever heard in my time watching wrestling. On the flip side of that coin, Maxine Dupree has been a shining star in her new role as the Women's Intercontinental Champion.
Absolutely. Maxine Dupree has been like the golden goddess or a new Valkyrie coming from the sky. And I'd hate to say it like this, but Becky, I thought that Charlotte Flair was like your rival. How are you going to steal all of her daddy's tricks, especially his worst tricks? Are you just going to. Is Ric Flair secretly writing your scripts for you or something? Because this is the worst shit I've ever seen. And you throwing tantrums, you might as well go out there and slap the ref to retain the title. Good Lord, you're terrible at this.
Yeah, she definitely is terrible at it. It does seem like Rick is writing her promos because they are just absolutely horrendous. And yeah, she just needs to go back to being a babyface, as far as I'm concerned, anyway.
Please, Becky, come back to face, all right? This heel shit ain't for you, all right? Especially with all the kids hugging you and whatnot.
Moving on to the next topic, it seems WWE is going back to the free agent angle. Javon Evans fought Ryo on Raw, and right before the match, he mentioned that he was a free agent. And then Trick Williams showed up on SmackDown claiming that he was a free agent and said Raw had given him an offer and asked Nick Aldis if he was going to match that offer. On the flip side of that coin, apparently ESPN had wanted the WWE to do a draft on one of the ESPN PLEs. Obviously, WWE didn't want that, and again, it seems like we're going back to the free agent angle.
I'm noticing the free agent angle more and more. It's becoming a prevalent thing. And I'm sorry, ESPN, but nobody is going to pay $30 to watch the draft. You need to calm down with all of that. I mean, you need to go to the fridge and chill out. I love this. I couldn't wait to say something about this. You know, his songs are really corny, but they're also kind of charting. So if your songs are so funny that you're definitely doing better than Travis Scott, and I haven't seen the crowd chant bees, bees, bees when Joe Hendry comes out, but they sure had no problem singing along to Miz Has Tiny Balls. And I just loved it. The whole thing was great. They had, different people out there playing different variations, especially our truth being the surprise Easter bunny at the end, which was, the sprinkles, the frosting to the cake that was. Miz really sold the show. Like he almost stole the show with how ridiculous he was being with some of the stuff, like trying to rip the balls off the Christmas tree and throw them at Hendry. Hendry pulls out a guitar and Miz pulls out the ukulele. It's classic. I haven't seen Miz give a damn about putting someone over like this for a while. So I'm glad that they're happening, and I hope that Miz kind of gets something out of this too, because Miz really needs a better push than what he's getting.
Yes, the entire segment was absolutely hilarious. For me, the frosting was Otis in the Santa suit and Takawa in the elf suit, and the sprinkles on top, as you mentioned, was Truth in the bunny outfit. And again, as you mentioned, on top of it, the match was just classic. The match was gold. Great comedy, great miracle on 34th Street fight. I'm glad they brought that back in the fashion that they brought that back.
I very much enjoyed it the same way. I'm glad to see Joe on SmackDown, despite the fact that we talked before about how LA Knight is injured and I feel like Joe kind of got called up early because LA Knight got injured. I've also heard, according to WrestleVotes, possibly other sources, that USA asked specifically for Joe Hendry.
I have also heard that USA Network was keen on getting Joe Hendry. Again, as you stated, according to WrestleVotes. And I think a big reason for that is because SmackDown is returning to a 3 hour show starting next Friday.
That means the SmackDown's about to get a whole lot more interesting because between the NXT invasion, basically, with all these free agents popping up, and uh, everyone's kind of pushing for the next generation, much like John Cena did for The Last Time Is Now.
Well, regarding SmackDown going back to 3 hours, we'll see if it makes it more interesting. Last time they did that, it did not make it more interesting. It made the show much, much worse. And the last thing on the list for WWE this week is the Ilya Dragunov versus Carmelo Hayes U.S. Championship match. Ilya closed the open challenge due to Tommaso Ciampa interfering in the first match that Melo and Ilya had. And the match was great. The match was a banger. Carmelo ended up beating Ilya for the U.S. Championship. So I see a big Melo push coming in. And Ilya Dragunov is just next level. He took the belt from the referee and strapped the belt around Carmelo's waist and then raised Melo's hand. That man is a big part of the future of WWE.
That was the most respectful loss and put over that I've seen in a long time. I've never really seen Ilya in the position to have to put someone over that he kind of already put over in NXT. So seeing Melo and Ilya back in the mix really makes a difference. And while I'm a bigger Ilya fan, I was a big fan of what I saw in that match that night.
Absolutely. Both wrestlers put on a fantastic performance, followed up by Ilya passing the torch, so to speak, to Melo. I see big things coming for both of them, and it's probably a good thing that they're both on SmackDown, with SmackDown going back to 3 hours. The last thing I do want to say about SmackDown was for a taped show, it was an amazing show. It was one of the best pre taped shows that I have ever seen WWE put on.
Yeah, that's been kind of a lost art since the 90s, I feel like, because when these companies were first getting a lot bigger than they were at the time, uh, several companies like WWE and WCW would record weeks or even months worth of stuff at a time in a short span of 2 weeks. And for pre-taped, like you said, that was beautiful. They they threw that paper airplane and they got it to go the distance.
And that will wrap up WWE for the week. We are now going to move on to AEW. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the Darby Allin Gabe Kidd match, which was absolutely insane for a quote unquote traditional wrestling match, because that match was not no DQ. That was not a stipulation match. That was a one on one, old fashioned wrestling match that turned into a bloodbath that Darby ended up sneaking a win out of, and it was absolutely phenomenal.
The match was so over the top, absolutely extreme. Also, Darby, I'm so glad you're back. I was so sad in some of our previous shows where, man, I'm not sure if, he's going to pull through the injury, but clearly he did. I like the word indefinitely because that means they can probably come back faster than we expect. And like you said, for a regular wrestling match, no special rules, no 34th street fight, none of that stuff. This was a regular match that was an absolute bloodbath.
100% it was a bloodbath. Crazy, crazy match. So moving forward, we're going to talk about Jon Moxley winning the Continental Classic. He actually had two matches during the World's End pay-per-view. The first match was against Kyle Fletcher, which he chipped a tooth during that match. Legitimately chipped a tooth. The second match was against Kazuchika Okada in the final, and Jon Moxley ended up beating Kazuchika Okada and is the new Continental Champion. What I found the most interesting was after the match, Mox went into a promo that makes me think that he just turned babyface at the World's End pay-per-view.
And that's kind of a big surprise because I don't think that I've seen Mox in any form or any incarnation ever actually go face. So if he does this, and to my knowledge, this may be the first time he has ever done it. Usually you know, he's usually a bad guy and he's kind of good at it. But I would like to see what else he has to offer. What does he have to bring to the table? And he's so over with the fans, they might as well just let him turn face at this point.
Well, we did see him as a face in the Shield in WWE, but the caveat to that is WWE did not let him be himself when he was Dean Ambrose. His initial run in AEW was more face ish. He wasn't a straight out baby face, but he wasn't the heel that he's been with the Death Riders. And his promo at World's End was that of a true babyface talking about the championship belonging to the fans and to all the people that competed in the tournament.
And that's the sort of thing that just makes those magic moments. He really surprised me, and clearly he surprised the audience with that. And I felt he was giving something deeply personal of himself. And that's definitely the sign of a face, especially when, like you said, this belongs to the fans. The second you say that, well, that's the face turn.
That's pretty much the gist of it. So it will definitely be interesting to see where that goes with the Death Riders moving forward. And the last thing on the list for the day is the Fatal 4-Way for the AEW Men's World Championship. Swerve's entrance, while the same, was a bit different. He had a Green Lantern theme to his entrance, which I found to be interesting. While I'm talking about entrances, the winner of the match, at least to me, was given away in the entrances. Except for the fact that Swerve had a Green Lantern theme to his entrance, everybody had the same old entrance that they always had. Meanwhile, MJF comes up out of the floor and they present him like Julius Caesar. At that moment, I knew MJF was winning the match.
That's something that, our Sherlock Holmes ability is getting even better. We're starting to notice that even the wardrobe can tell you to some degree the outcome of what you're looking at. I also loved the Green Lantern entrance. I hope that I see more of that again. In brightest day and blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light.
That wraps up the show for this week. We would like to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out our other videos.